Hey there, this is why you need my new book, and it's free on Kindle for a limited time. To celebrate my birthday, I've got a special treat just for you. From September 6th to September 10th, you can download my latest book for free on Kindle. It's a fun, light read that captures some of my recent adventures. This marks my 59th project, and it's now available internationally. I want to share the joy this book has brought me. Check out the link below to grab your copy during the free period. Whether it's your cup of tea or not, no worries. I'm simply excited to share this journey with you. Thanks for being part of this celebration, and happy reading. Let's connect through this book and enjoy the experience together. Go to Amazon and get yourself a copy of The Life Memories and Creative Works of Mr. Joe Book 2. Now I'd like to offer you an excerpt from the book. The Writer's Paradox, 1. The Art of Connection. You see, I've always believed that writing is more than just words on a page. It's a conversation, an ongoing dialogue between the writer and the reader, between the present and the future, between the self and the world. The irony, of course, is that writing often requires solitude, a withdrawal from the very world I seek to communicate with. So here I am, a writer isolated in my room, yet yearning to connect with everything and everyone. I've spent countless hours sitting at this old wooden desk, the grooves and scratches of its surface as familiar to me as the back of my hand. It's where I've penned every thought, every story, every reflection. This desk has seen me through the highs and lows of my craft, witnessed my frustrations and absorbed my triumphs. Sometimes I think the desk knows me better than I know myself, and maybe it does. After all, it holds the weight of my words, my life, and perhaps even my soul. But writing isn't just about me and my desk. It's about the world outside this room, the world I observe, interact with, and try to make sense of through the act of putting pen to paper. When I write, I'm not just expressing myself. I'm trying to reach out, to communicate something deeper, something that words alone can't always capture. I want my writing to be a bridge, a conduit that connects me to others, to the plants in my garden, the animals in the forest, the people I've never met, and the future readers who might one day stumble upon my work. Take, for instance, the plants in my garden. They're not just green things growing in the dirt. They're living, breathing beings with their own stories, their own wisdom. I often find myself writing to them, crafting letters in my mind as I water them or pull away the weeds. I'll ask the rose bush how it manages to bloom so beautifully despite the harsh winds, or I'll inquire of the ivy how it finds the strength to cling so tenaciously to the brick wall. And the funny thing is, when I write to them, they respond, not in words, of course. Plants don't speak the way we do, but they communicate in their own way, through the way they grow, the way they flourish or falter, depending on the care they receive. I've learned to listen to the subtle language of leaves and petals, to understand that the yellowing of a leaf isn't just a sign of decay, but a message, a cry for help, a reflection of the environment I've created for them. Writing to my plants has taught me to listen more deeply, to pay attention to the silent conversations that are happening all around us. And then there are the animals. I live near a forest, and it's not uncommon for a deer or a fox to wander into my yard. I've always felt a kinship with animals, a sense that they understand more than we give them credit for. I've often wondered what it would be like to speak their language, to communicate with them directly, so I started writing to them too. I'd sit on my porch, notebook in hand, and write letters to the deer grazing on the edge of the woods. I'd ask them about their lives, their families, their fears and their joys, and though they never answered with words, they responded in other ways. They grew less afraid of me, more willing to come closer, to share the space with me. It was as if they could sense the intent behind my words, the desire to connect, to understand. Writing to the animals has taught me that communication isn't limited to spoken or written language. It's about intention, about the energy you put into the world. But perhaps the most profound conversations I've had have been with myself. Writing has always been my way of sorting through my thoughts, of making sense of the chaos that often swirls in my mind. I write to understand myself, to uncover the truths hidden beneath the surface of my consciousness. I'll ask myself questions in my writing. Why did I react that way? What am I really feeling? What do I want from this life? And then I'll let the words flow, trusting that the answers will come even if I don't understand them right away. This is where the paradox comes in. Writing is both a solitary act and a communal one. I write alone, but I'm never truly alone when I write. I'm in conversation with the world, with the plants, the animals, the people who will one day read my words. And in that sense, writing is a way of breaking down the barriers that separate us, a way of reaching out across time and space to create connections that might not otherwise exist. The feedback I receive from the world isn't always immediate or direct. The plants don't write back, the animals don't leave me notes, but there's a kind of feedback loop that happens, a subtle exchange of energy that lets me know that my words are being heard, that my intent is being understood. The roses bloom a little brighter, the deer come a little closer. The fog in my mind clears just a bit. It's as if the act of writing creates ripples that move outward, touching everything and everyone they encounter. And then there's the feedback from people, those who read my work, who find something in my words that resonates with them. It's always a strange feeling, knowing that something I wrote in the quiet of my room has touched someone else's life. I receive letters, emails, messages from readers who tell me that my words helped them through a difficult time, that they found comfort or inspiration in what I wrote. And every time it humbles me, reminds me that writing isn't just about expression, it's about connection. That's the true power of writing, the ability to connect with others, to bridge the gaps between us, to create a space where we can come together, even if only for a moment. My words are like seeds, scattered to the wind, and I never know where they'll land, who they'll take root in, but I trust that they'll find their way, that they'll grow into something meaningful, something that will last. 2. The language of the world. There's a certain kind of magic in the way the world communicates if you're willing to listen. It's not always obvious and it's rarely loud, but it's there. In the rustling of leaves, in the way the light filters through the trees, in the quiet moments when you feel a connection to something larger than yourself. I've always been drawn to those moments, to the spaces where the world speaks in a language that isn't bound by words. Writing has become my way of translating that language, of capturing the essence of those fleeting moments and putting them into a form that others can understand. But it's not just about capturing the moment, it's about engaging in a dialogue with the world, a back and forth exchange that deepens my understanding of the world and my place in it. I remember one afternoon in late summer when the air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers and the sun hung low in the sky, casting everything in a golden glow. I was sitting in my garden, notebook in hand, trying to capture the feeling of the moment, the way the world seemed to hum with life and energy. But as I wrote, I found myself struggling to find the right words. Everything I put down felt flat, inadequate. I was trying to describe something that couldn't be captured in words alone, something that needed to be felt, experienced. Frustrated, I set my notebook aside and closed my eyes, letting the sounds and smells of the garden wash over me. I focused on my breath, on the feeling of the warm earth beneath me, on the way the breeze whispered through the leaves. And then I heard it, a soft melodic rustling, like the sound of pages turning. I opened my eyes and saw the plants swaying gently in the breeze, their leaves catching the light in a way that made them shimmer like emeralds. It was as if the garden itself was speaking to me, telling me that I didn't need to capture everything in words, that sometimes the best way to communicate was to simply be present, to listen. So I did. I listened to the garden, to the way the flowers leaned toward the sun, to the way the vines twisted and turned, reaching for something beyond their grasp. I listened to the way the birds sang in the trees, their songs weaving together in a tapestry of sound that filled the air with a sense of peace and contentment. And as I listened, I began to understand that writing isn't just about putting words on a page. It's about tuning into the world around you, about becoming a part of the conversation that's always happening, even when you're not aware of it. It's about recognizing that the world has its own language, its own way of communicating, and that sometimes the best thing you can do is step back and let it speak. When I finally picked up my notebook again, I didn't try to describe what I had just experienced. Instead, I let the words flow, unfiltered, unforced. I wrote about the feeling of connection, about the sense of being a part of something larger than myself. I wrote about the paradox of writing, how it can bring you closer to the world even as it separates you from it, how it can be both an act of isolation and an act of communion. And when I read those words back later, I realized that I had captured something true, something that resonated not just with me, but with the world around me. It was as if the garden had helped me find the words I was searching for, as if it had shared its wisdom with me in a language I could understand. That's the thing about writing. It's not just about the writer. It's about the world, about the way we interact with it, the way we translate our experiences into something that can be shared with others. Writing is a dialogue, a conversation that takes place across time and space between the self and the world, between the writer and the reader. And in that conversation, there's always a give and take, a push and pull that challenges your perceptions, forces you to see things from a different perspective. It's in those moments of tension, of paradox, that the true magic of writing happens. It's when you're forced to confront the contradictions in your own thoughts, the gaps in your understanding, that you're able to create something that resonates on a deeper level. 3. The paradox of isolation and connection. There's an inherent paradox in the life of a writer, a contradiction that lies at the heart of the craft. On one hand, writing is a solitary act, one that requires you to retreat from the world, to isolate yourself in order to focus on your thoughts, your words, your ideas. But on the other hand, writing is also an act of connection, a way of reaching out to others, of bridging the gaps between us. I've often struggled with this paradox, with the tension between my need for solitude and my desire for connection. I'm someone who thrives on interaction, on conversation, on the exchange of ideas, but at the same time, I need my space, my quiet, my time alone to think, to write, to create. It's a delicate balance, one that I'm constantly trying to maintain, There are days when the isolation feels unbearable, when the silence of my room is deafening and I long for the company of others. But there are also days when the noise of the world feels overwhelming, when all I want is to retreat into my own mind, to lose myself in the act of writing. And yet, despite this tension, I've come to realize that the two are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're deeply intertwined, each one feeding into the other. The solitude of writing allows me to connect with the world on a deeper level, to process my thoughts and experiences in a way that I can then share with others. And the connections I make through my writing, the feedback I receive from readers, the conversations that arise from my work, fuel my desire to write, to create, to continue the dialogue. It's a paradox, yes, but it's one that I've come to embrace. Writing is both an act of isolation and an act of connection, and it's in the tension between the two that the magic happens. It's in those moments of solitude, when I'm alone with my thoughts, that I'm able to tap into something deeper, something that resonates not just with me, but with others. And it's in those moments of connection, when I hear from readers, when I engage in conversation with others, that I'm reminded of the power of writing, of the impact that words can have. Writing is a way of reaching out, of bridging the gaps between us, of creating a space where we can come together, even if only for a moment. But there's another paradox at play here, one that's even more profound. Writing is an act of creation, of bringing something new into the world, but it's also an act of discovery, of uncovering something that was already there, waiting to be found. When I write, I'm not just putting words on a page, I'm exploring my own thoughts, my own beliefs, my own understanding of the world. And in doing so, I'm often surprised by what I find. There are times when I'll start writing with a clear idea of what I want to say, only to find that the words take me in a completely different direction. It's as if the act of writing opens up a door in my mind, revealing thoughts and ideas that I wasn't consciously aware of. And in those moments, I'm reminded that writing isn't just about expression, it's about exploration, about discovery, about uncovering the truths that lie hidden beneath the surface. And it's in this process of discovery that I'm often confronted with paradoxes, contradictions in my own thoughts, gaps in my understanding, tensions between different ideas. But rather than trying to resolve these paradoxes, I've learned to embrace them, to see them as opportunities for growth, for deeper understanding. For example, I've often written about the importance of connection, about the need for community, for relationships, for the bonds that tie us together. But at the same time, I've written about the value of solitude, of the need for space, for time alone to think, to reflect, to create. On the surface, these two ideas seem to contradict each other. How can you value both connection and solitude? How can you seek both community and isolation? But the truth is, these two ideas are not mutually exclusive. They're two sides of the same coin. It's in the balance between connection and solitude that we find true fulfillment, true happiness. Too much of one or the other, and we become unbalanced, disconnected from ourselves and from the world around us. Writing has taught me to embrace these paradoxes, to see them not as contradictions, but as opportunities for growth, for deeper understanding. It's in the tension between opposing ideas that the true magic of writing happens, that the deepest truths are uncovered. And it's in this process of embracing paradox that I've come to understand the true role of writing in my life. Writing isn't just about expressing myself, it's about exploring the world, about uncovering the truths that lie hidden beneath the surface. It's about engaging in a dialogue with the world, with others, with myself, and in doing so, deepening my understanding of the world and my place in it. Writing is both an act of creation and an act of discovery, both a solitary act and a communal one. It's a paradox, yes, but it's one that I've come to embrace, one that has become central to my life, my craft, my way of being in the world. Ivo, the writer's legacy. As I sit here, reflecting on the role that writing has played in my life, I'm struck by another paradox, the paradox of legacy. Writing is, in many ways, an attempt to leave something behind, to create something that will outlast you, that will continue to resonate with others long after you're gone. It's a way of reaching out across time, of creating connections that transcend the boundaries of life and death. But at the same time, writing is also an act of letting go, of releasing your words into the world and trusting that they will find their way, that they will resonate with others in ways you can't predict or control. It's a way of acknowledging that you can't hold on to your words, that once they're out there, they take on a life of their own. This is the paradox of legacy. Writing is both a way of leaving something behind and a way of letting go. It's a way of creating something that will outlast you, but it's also a way of accepting that you can't control how that legacy will be received, how it will be remembered. When I write, I'm not just thinking about the present, I'm thinking about the future, about the people who will one day read my words, about the connections they will form, the conversations they will spark. I'm thinking about the impact my words will have, not just now, but long after I'm gone. But I'm also aware that I can't control how my words will be received, how they will be interpreted, how they will be remembered. All I can do is write with honesty, with integrity, with a deep respect for the craft and for the people who will one day read my work. And in doing so, I'm reminded that writing is both an act of creation and an act of surrender. It's a way of leaving something behind, but it's also a way of letting go, of releasing your words into the world and trusting that they will find their way. This is the legacy of a writer, to create something that will outlast you, but to do so with the understanding that you can't control how that legacy will be received. It's a paradox, yes, but it's one that I've come to embrace, one that has become central to my understanding of what it means to be a writer. And so, as I sit here, pen in hand, reflecting on the role that writing has played in my life, I'm filled with a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the craft, for the connections it has allowed me to create, for the conversations it has sparked, for the ways it has deepened my understanding of the world and my place in it. Writing has been my way of reaching out to the world, of engaging in a dialogue with others, with myself, with the world around me. It has been my way of exploring the paradoxes of life, of uncovering the truths that lie hidden beneath the surface, of creating something that will outlast me. And in doing so, it has become not just a craft, but a way of life, a way of being in the world. V, a return to the beginning. As I bring these reflections to a close, I'm reminded of something I've learned through my years of writing. Every ending is also a beginning. Just as every conversation has its pauses, its moments of silence before the dialogue resumes, so too does writing have its cycles of creation, reflection, and renewal. For those who have journeyed with me through these pages, who have engaged in this dialogue, I hope you find that these words resonate with you, that they spark your own thoughts, your own reflections. I hope you see the paradoxes in your own life, the tensions between isolation and connection, creation and discovery, legacy and surrender. And when you're ready, I hope you'll return to these words, these pages, and find something new, because writing, like life, is a journey, one that is never truly finished, one that invites us to return, to reflect, to begin again. So here's to the paradoxes, to the conversations, to the connections that transcend time and space. Here's to the legacy we leave behind and the understanding that we can't control how that legacy will be received. And here's to the journey, the never-ending, ever-evolving journey of writing, of life, of connection. Until we meet again, in these pages or in another, I leave you with this. May your words be a bridge, a connection, a conversation that continues to resonate long after you've put down the pen. And when you're ready, may you begin again. The end, or perhaps the beginning.